If you are a real estate professional and you're here, this here is going to be your ultimate guide of how to use Claude. I know you've seen other videos, but if anything is 3 weeks from today, there's a whole new version of Claude that didn't exist 3 weeks ago that I'm going to show you guys today that you guys have access to, for new models, new features, new techniques. The only thing I'm going to come back, which I think it deserves their own video, is to go deeper into Claude design and Claude Code. You need to know how to set up Claude Code. So I'm not going to intertwine the setup of Claude Code, but I am going to show you some real world examples of Claude Code, why you should be using it. Because I know the hype right now is all about CoWork, but chat and CoWork has intertwined, and what separates Claude from everything else is what Code is giving you guys access to. So if you guys are ready to learn, I have time-stamped everything. So if you know some of the stuff, you can jump around, but I assure you a lot of what I'm going to show you, you probably never seen before, because we build these exact same agents for our clients. I teach thousands of agents around the world in reference to how to be proficient when it comes to agentic workflows, not just AI. So with no further ado, let's get to work. Now here's where Claude kind of separates itself from everything else you guys have access to. OpenAI have done something similar, but it's not as robust as Claude is right now. You have 3 versions of Claude, right? You have the chat side of Claude. You have CoWork, which helps you with tasks. This is where you can schedule things. So you'll see the difference when you're using the chat side. This is where you conversate, you work through ideas, prompts. CoWork is when you are able to schedule tasks. This is what I mentioned to you before, giving it native files that it can use from your computer, wherever you keep all your contracts and listings and things of that nature. And then you have Code. Code is where you're actually able to build things. You can build a simplified CRM, independent from everything else you're using. Maybe you want a CRM that just tracks the listings and tracks notifying your clients and in between the transactions. Adding the right MCPs, which we'll get there, and I'll talk about MCPs in 1 second. With Code, you can build whatever you want. You can kind of see, we have about 20 sessions running right now with Code. They're different. They're doing different things right now. And I mainly use Fable inside of Code. Remember I said when you're using Fable, it's for bigger models. Whenever you're using any of these models or any of these different models of Claude, you still have access to all of the different LLM models in reference to thinking through all of the different features or different types of Claude. So from chat, you still have the same models. In CoWork, you have the models as well, right? And of course, when you're in Code, you can choose which model you want to use as well, right? So you go through all the different models that I showed you earlier. Just keep in mind, each model, these models aren't created equal. So they have their best use cases for. But when you're using Code, Fable and Opus is going to be the best for using the Code. And when you're using chat, if you're just, trying to sort some things out, Haiku is better for you. When you're working on like structure, like you give it a prompt or you want to build a prompt and want to do some meta prompting. We'll talk about that a little later. These between Sonnet is great. And then when you're inside of CoWork, CoWork is excellent for Opus. Opus is best used for CoWork. And when you're creating projects, when we get there, Opus is great for projects as well, right? So all of the models do exist in all of the different versions of Claude, from, again, chat, CoWork, and Code. Now, for anyone that's new to Claude and you guys feel as though that ChatGPT has all your information or whatever you're using, I think most of you guys are using ChatGPT, so I'm not going to worry about any other large language model. This is how you guys are able to pull out information from ChatGPT and bring it to Claude and start your memory. So we're going to come here and go to settings. And under settings, you want to come to capabilities. See where it says start importing. You want to go to start importing and you want to copy this right here. Copy this, bring this over to ChatGPT, and everything that ChatGPT give you, just paste it right here. Add memory, and you are good to go. The unique thing about when you are using Claude, you can update the memory as you see fit, right? So if I say, Claude, moving forward, don't call me James, call me Jay. Add that to your memory. it'll take that information and apply it, and it'll let me know to confirm that, right? So it'll confirm that, okay, I'm not going to call you James anymore. I'm just going to call you Jay moving forward. So you can see what it's doing, reading your memory. Who is James? Found it, bop, 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 and it's going through. And yes, I'm going to have, got it, Jay. See what happened, right? Now, I don't like being called Jay. Claude, change that back from Jay to call me by my first name, James. And simple as that. It goes right back to the memory, make the adjustments, and whatever your preference are, any adjustments, you can just make it right in the chat. So once it has context of who you are, using the chat to adjust anything from that point on, you're good to go. All right, so let's get to the models. Now, here you'll see that this is where you gain access to all of the different models that Claude has given to us to use. Over here, these are considered to be the legacy models. These are excellent for strategizing and chatting. They're not the fastest. The Opus, you'll get the fastest output. Sonnet, a little slower, but I mean, what's fast at this point is kind of subjective, right? So they're not the fastest. They are limited to some of what the information that they will provide in reference to hallucination. So, just keep that in mind. This is a great way to save your usage. And I'll show you that next of why understanding the models are important, right? Inside of the upper part are the newer models. So if you don't want to go to any of the legacy models and you just want to strategize, Haiku is where you would strategize and actually figure out questions. And this way you can chat and have conversations and source things out. Sonnet 5 is where pretty much the standard of what everyone uses. Now, keep in mind when you're using Sonnet, there are different modes that Sonnet offers, right? The default mode is always in medium. The low mode, I'll caution you, some people use this just to save their usage. But if you use the low mode inside of your projects, you're going to be limited of what it can do. So keeping it at medium is the easiest thing. I don't ever see a reason to change Sonnet into these higher models. These higher models do come in beneficial when you start to use some of the stronger models like Opus and Fable, especially Fable 5. Right. But Opus is great for when you are building stuff out as well. Right. And again, I kind of keep mine set at the high default. I don't really change it much because the intelligence level is a lot stronger. And then, of course, when you start to get into Fable, Fable is perfect for your designing. Right now, you want to just be cautious about how you set Fable. It's always set at high based off of the usage and how it's able to consume and process information. So between Opus and Fable, they're always set at high. You don't ever want to get to the extra or max. This is going to burn through a lot of your usage. And if you don't like the $20 model, you're not going to get anywhere, especially if you're building out websites. Fable is perfect for design, app building, really, really deep thought. That's what you think of when using Fable. Opus is excellent for when you guys are using tasks. And when we get into CoWork, Opal comes in really, really beneficial when you guys are scheduling tasks, you're creating agents. It consumes a lot, but using Opal on a scheduled task it reduces the usage so you can get away with it. Sonnet should be your day-to-day use. So when you're using Sonnet, every day you can use Sonnet. Just make sure you have the efforts at medium. And then Haiku is if you just want to source some things. I just want to make sense of something. Haiku is the best way to go. And of course, like I said, you have the legacy models down here that you can play around with. I normally keep a lot of these models, the Sonnet, we keep a lot of these models at the extended thinking where I wanted to take some time to think about what it's saying. It does increase the usage, but you're not going to really notice it unless you change these efforts. But having your models at a more complex thinking or for making it take some time to really source out what it's doing for you, setting this or presetting this is really healthy. The Haiku is unnecessary. Like I said, you're just talking to Haiku. So having this at extended thinking, this is just for chatting, strategizing, getting the idea. You take the strategy. If you have create a prompt or write something that you want to use, you can take that and bring it back to Sonnet and really deepen that process. And then, of course, Opal is when you're using projects, when you're creating looping agents. This is great for when you guys start to get into things like agentic agents. You start tying agents that can build for you and really releasing the tasks inside of things like CoWork. Opus is great inside of code as well. And then Fable is for those deep design and structure things you're trying to do. Like you're building an app, you're inside of code, you're working on some new feature, you're building your MVP, your minimal viable product, you're building the software for your team. Fable comes in really helpful there. So those are the 4 models you want to keep in mind. Haiku, this is just for chatting. Sonnet, day-to-day use, keep it at medium. Opus is great for your projects, looping agents, and any agent projects you have. And you start putting together like a calling agent. Opus comes in real powerful. You start tying in workflows. Opus is powerful. And when you guys are designing, you want to build those websites, you want to build those animated websites, you want to get really deep in your design. Fable is the model you guys lean into. And keep in mind, extended thinking can go into all 3 of the top. Haiku really doesn't need extended thinking, but that's how you want to look at the models, you guys. All right. So now that we talked about the models, now I want to point out when I pointed out to you guys about the usage. So if you go into here, your name under settings, you'll see here where it says usage. This is something you guys want to pay close attention to. Truthfully speaking, it'll notify you when you are like really burning through your usage. And remember when I spoke about the different models use different tokens, and it burns through the usage limit a lot faster, the higher or the stronger the model. So when you're using Fable 5, especially using Fable 5 above high, and you don't have a bigger account, if you just have like the $20 account, you might be able to get away with using Fable 5 for the day. And then you got to wait for all of your usage to reset. So this here is a number you want to pay attention to. Your current usage tracks everything. And you see here, it tracks all of the different models. And of course, Fable has its own tracking mechanism of how it monitors how you can use Fable. This is one of the newer models that wasn't available 3 weeks ago, right? So we got Fable in the early part of this month. We had it, they took it, now we have it back. And I guess all of the security measures are taken care of, but keep in mind, this is where you'll be able to see where your usage is. And you can also add credits if you want to. Like we have it at the stand of like $20, nothing crazy. Very rarely I ever have to use it. But if we get to the point where I'm building something and I don't want the project to stop, this is where this comes in super handy of giving it a small credit to you. So under your usage, pay attention to your usage so you know exactly what you're using and you understand, like, the bigger the model, the more it uses. Now let's talk about Claude extension. Claude does have an extension that pops up on the side. Now, I see a lot of people teaching you guys how to use the extension, but the extension is a little inefficient if you have to copy and paste it. If you have to copy and paste anything from Claude, you're kind of doing something wrong. You need to be able to do everything inside of Claude. All of your projects, all of your workflows, everything you're building should be inside Claude. So here's the rule I want you guys to follow. If you have to copy and paste something in Claude, you're doing it wrong. But I'll just point this out to you for you guys that just want to use the extension. One of the workarounds with the extension, people see the extension as a way of getting to sites that are password protected. But as long as you're logged into the site, Claude can get to that particular site. Now, why using the extension is inefficient is because you have a feature here inside of Claude that is a workaround that works directly inside of Claude, independent from the extension, right? So it works where you don't have to go to the extension. You can come right here in Claude and you give Claude permission to use the extension. So when you want to search something, as long as you're on a site that's like password protected, if it's open, Claude can actually access that site now. So you don't have to come to the extension to do that. And that's what I see a lot of people do, right? A lot of people go to their MLS or whatever password protected site, and then they go to the extension and they'll say something like, do without asking. And you don't have to do that, right? As long as the site that's password protected is open and this feature is on, you can utilize the extension without leaving Claude and going to the site where it is. So uploading the extension, having it set up is perfect. You can stay inside of Claude and do all of your building right in Claude. So just keep that in mind. The extension works directly in Claude. You don't have to leave it to go and use it. Using it from here is so inefficient because whatever it creates, I have to copy and paste. And yes, I have access to all of the models, but whatever it creates, I have to copy and paste. And it burns through a lot of usage when you are using it here and say, take this and then send it to a Google Drive. And there's a lot that happens where you'll see when you are using the extension and trying to move information from the extension to documents and contracts. There's a lot of usage that you burn through and you can't really work as efficient as you want. You can stay right in Claude and go right here where it says Chrome extension and give the extension give Claude access to the extension, right? So Claude is super, super smart, you guys. It can use everything you give it access to, which is why we want to lean into even talking about MCPs now. All right, let's talk about MCPs. So let me show you what MCPs are. That's abbreviation for Model Context Protocols. They have it titled as connectors. The reason why you want to understand the term MCPs is because there are networks that offer a large range of connectors, and they call it MCPs. So the original version of this whole connector world was MCPs. They still call it that, right? But it's easier just to see where to say connectors, but it's called MCPs, Model Context Protocols. And you'll see, I'm going to show you two areas where you can get your MCPs or to use your connectors. One is the native side of Claude. This is where you give Claude access to tools, right? Things that you guys are actually using is what you want to connect inside of here. So here's an assignment I'll give you guys to start with is when you guys are getting ready to connect, come to browsers and connect all of your Google tools. Like everything that's Google based, connect it from your Google Drive, your Google Calendar, your Google Chrome, and your Gmail account, right? So let's get our Gmail up there. Where is it? Your Gmail account. That way you can actually work. So those core features I want you guys to do as just a quick assignment, right? Connect your Google Drive. This gives it access to data. Remember, we talked about if you're going to use the web version and you want to start adding files or folders, this is where your Google Drive becomes really, really handy. If you guys are sharing documents with other people on your team, you have leases that have to go out, you have contracts that have to be signed or submitted. This is where you can put it, drop it right here in your Google Drive. You can pull that contract. And if I have time, I'll show you how to map out. I'll do another video, show you guys how to map out your contracts where you can have Claude fill out your contracts completely, right? But when you are using Claude, that is one of the workarounds of getting your documents on your in the web version, right? But inside of Claude, you'll see there are a ton of connectors that you guys can connect. Everything you're using, you can connect inside of Claude right now. And the connectors or the MCP network is actually growing, right? But here's something I'll show you. If you can't find what you're looking for here, I'm going to show you a side quest that you guys can go on and get other connectors, because Zapier is going to house all of your CRMs. You're not going to find your CRMs in here. So let me just prepare you for that. And then you also have the ability to create custom connectors. That's another conversation. I'll show you that as well, right? So first, here's with all your connectors. And I want you to start by connecting all of your Google tools, your Gmail, your Google Calendar, and Google Drive. And let me show you Zapier, where you'll be able to connect your CRM. Right. And then here you can also create custom connectors. So I'll show you just the process of custom connectors, and then we'll jump in. I'll show you Zapier where it's a bigger network of connectors. So let me show you Zapier, where all of the, like any MCP you can't find before you get into creating custom. And a lot of times if it's a custom MCP, it'll tell you. But if you can't find the MCP, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be here. All of your CRMs are going to be inside of the Zapier network. And you need to understand not Zapier, the automation, but Zapier, the MCP server, right? And inside of here, once you give it access to Claude, here's where you would come and connect any MCP that you're missing, right? So you'll come under here, and whatever you're missing, whatever CRM that you think you need, it's definitely going to be here. Like you name the CRM from KV Core, you name it, it's here. It's going to be here, you guys. So This is where you're able to add additional Gmail accounts. So I get a lot of people that have multiple Gmail accounts. You can give Claude a Gmail account, and you can create other Gmail accounts inside of Zapier. You just will have to call out that particular account when you're using it. So you're going to have to give it the email that it's connected to. That way Claude knows to attach it to, because it's always going to go to the default email that you have connected. Another great use case when it comes to Zapier is if you want to just have all your MCPs in one area and you just connect the Zapier MCP, you can also do that as well. Because when you are going to use, or when you're using the Zapier MCP, you still have to come and give it access here. So you have to have a Zapier MCP connected inside Claude first, give it full access to what it can and cannot do, right? And then it'll pull whatever MCPs you have given it connected to here. So you start with your Zapier MCP, and once you connect that, then you come in and connect Zapier to Claude. So the first step is you need the Zapier MCP, and you come in Claude. Come in Zapier. If you don't have an account, create an account, use the free version. Like I said, I'm a big fan of using free first, and you would have to connect Claude to the server. And once you have the server connected, all of your CRMs will be available here. Right. So, and here's something you want to pay attention to. Whatever CRM you're using, pay attention to the connectors. There are certain CRMs that don't give access that I think it should give, where we're not just looking at leads, so we can actually pull leads. We create updates, log calls. There's a lot that you should be able to do. Create notes. It should have a lot more API keys and access inside that CRM. The CRM got like two things it can do, like, pull a lead and, make a note. That's not going to benefit you much at all outside of creating something you have to copy and paste. When you have access, so the more access you have to your CRM, the more you can do, the more you can build, the further you can go. So Zapier has all your CRMs. Remember, connected with Zapier first inside of Claude, give it access, then come to the Zapier network here inside of Zapier, and now you're good to go once you've given it access to your Claude account. That's it. And now you have all your MCPs. And that's MCPs, you guys. Model Context Protocol. Now, I'm just going to jump back over to the web version so I can show you a quick example of a custom MCP. And when you guys are creating custom MCPs, they aren't always necessary. That just means they haven't been submitted to the Anthropic network, and it's not available directly in their browser network. So most of your MCPs are going to be here where they've already been submitted. And this grows all the time. Like, you'll start to see what it normally puts the newer version ones up top. But if it's not here, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be in Zapier. And if it's not in Zapier, then you also have the option to do a custom MCP. So this is how you go about doing a custom MCP, where you'll see where we was just in the browser area. And here's your custom MCP. And there's only 2 things you need for your custom MCP, whatever you're going to call it, and whatever the MCP URL. So we'll use Algro as an example, right? Algro is a software that lets you actually search YouTube in depth, right? This is the software we use to pull videos. It does really deep diving, right? So what we need here is the server URL, which connects it to the server, right? And we'll put that here, and then we'll add the Algro name, and then we'll hit add. Algro, let me spell it right first. Algro, and then we'll add, and then it'll take us to get it approved. We already have it connected, so you can kind of see his server with this URL already exists, but that's the process, right? So you add it, and it would take you to approve it through the Algro or whatever the custom URL that you're using, because you have to give it permission. Nothing just works on its own. So you always have to give it permission. Once you give it permission, then you have access to it, and then you should see it inside of your network, right? So where is Algro at? Where's my custom MCP at? Let me go here. Oh, you know what? I think it's only, there we go. So we have the custom MCP here, and you see what it said here? It said custom algo. There you go. See what it says custom? So it tags when there's a custom MCP, and you have the same, parameters of giving it permission to do whatever you allow it to, giving it access to whatever you allow it to. This is something that you're going to have to reset pretty often because, like I said, after a while, the API keys trigger, and you have to just reset the permission. And worst case scenario, if you don't reset the permission manually when you're building something, it'll just request it in the build. All right. Now that we have tools connected to Claude, now we have our MCP set up. Hopefully you guys went through the exercise, at least getting your Gmail stuff set up. Now we're going to train Claude of actually how to, do workflows and understand just some of the processes that we have going on in our businesses. And we're going to jump into skills. Skills is like a superpower when it comes to Claude. This is how it actually learns how to create workflows, the process. It understands things. You don't have to repeat, the prompt. You just give it a command code or an execution of what you want it to do, and it will do that. But the very first set of skills I want you guys to set up is the foundation skills. So when you come in skills, you're going to come under where it says browse. Turn all of these on. It's like set every last one of these up, because as you'll see, each of these have information that helps the process of what you're trying to do, like really, really flourish. So let's just look for MCP builder, right? The MCP builder goes through the entire process, and it shows Claude how to actually create and use MCPs, right? Model context protocols, right? You see here, there's a skills builder, right? That might already be set on for you guys. Like the skills creator, I think that comes on as standard. So if it's not, make sure that's turned on. But this here helps it when you are working or have a workflow going and you want to repeat that workflow. You should get in the habit of like, okay, this is important. Claude, turn this into a skill, and now it understands the workflow, and you give it a command code or the execution like direction, and it understands how to do the thing over and over again without you repeating it, right? But this here teaches Claude how to actually create skills. Right. So you want to make sure all of these are turned on. And then you have custom skills. These are custom skills. Each of these are skills that we've created inside my business, where even down to listing prospecting, this here interacts with a calling agent, a few other agents, where it actually does listing prospecting for my clients. It calls, it tracks, it monitors, it fills out the CRM. Like all of this is inside the workflow. But again, there's a few more steps that when you guys really start to understand how to create skills, you start to understand what the proper MCPs are and how those skills can interact. But this here is the workflow that the skill needs to follow to get things done. We have a brand design skill. All of you guys should have some type of brand design skill. We have a few of them, where depending on what we are building or giving out, we have one that's just for apps. So when we're working on different apps and I want to know what it looks like, we give it that particular brand design skill. So we'll take it, and let's say you're working on flyers, brochures, listings, open house, whatever it is, you can give it the brand design, tell it to turn it to a brand design skill. And whenever you're creating something, all you need to say is use that particular skill, right? Client finder. So the list goes on and on of what you can create a skill for, but just understand skills are the workflows and the process of what you're doing inside your business, especially if it's something that's going to be repeated. So this pretty much makes prompts somewhat obsolete. Prompts has its place. Prompts should be used for system building, not for repeat. Right? I'll show you later when we get into projects of when you guys want to do something that has to be repeated that's in a prompt form. But when you're using skills are entire workflows that helps Claude understand exactly step by step of what has to be done when that particular task is asked. And that's where you start to understand when you're using chat, CoWork, or code, what is the best Claude feature to use. And alongside the feature, alongside the MCP, which is the tools, and then you give it the skill, which is the workflow. Now you have a powerhouse of a tool. This is why I said it's going to be the strongest tool in your arsenal for your business, you guys. So understanding skills is going to be essential. So you have your standard, which is the legacy skills. All of these should be turned on. And then you have your custom skills. You can build these as you guys go through it. Some of these I'll give you guys. I have the agent lab where I give all this stuff to the people that's part of the community, from the listing prospecting, open house, video campaigns. The list goes, all the stuff the lab has, all the stuff that they can use. So unfortunately, I can't give this to you here, but you can create your own, you guys. But just understand, skills is exactly how you create workflows to teach Claude what you need done in your business. All right, so let's get into plugins. So you guys see skills, and now let me show you guys plugins. Plugins are pretty much pre-built workflows and MCPs all collided. So most plugins have a collection of skills that kind of work together with each other. Here you'll see all of the legacy plugins. Just depending on what you need, you guys can go through here. Most of you agents definitely need things like your PDF viewers, marketing, your productivity, design. You can also go and create custom plugins, which is what we do, right? All of our plugins are custom. So you guys, we understand how to build them. We do have some of the legacy plugins that you can see here. Then you have quite a few of custom plugins, which you'll see inside of each plugin is a list of skills that are inside the plugins. Some of the legacy plugins you'll see, not only does it have a list of skills, but it also has a list of connectors that you guys would use that works really well with it, which is the MCPs. And it goes and shows you just what the tasks are, right? So when you guys get some time, go in there and check out the plugins, pick the plugins you need. And then once you guys get a little bit better at building out your skills and you have skills that kind of work hand in hand with each other, those can be condensed into plugins and you can pass those down to your team whenever you need to. So plugins are super powerful, and it used to be only available on the desktop version. Now it's available on the web version, and plugins are mainly used inside of CoWork. CoWork, when we get into CoWork, you'll see how the system structure works when we're using plugins and how you're able to use command codes and triggers to use the plugins. All right, now you have your connectors set up, which is MCPs. You got your skills set up. You got your plugins. Now you're actually able to use Claude a little bit more proficient, right? We brought our memory over from ChatGPT or wherever you guys were using it. You've seen how to kind of set up like a more understanding of how Claude should engage, speaking a little bit more human for you. Let's kind of use some of this stuff now. So getting into the chat, you'll see here. Remember, when you guys are using chat, this is chat. When you're using CoWork, you're creating a task. And when you're in code, you're building sessions, right? Sessions just go a lot more longer. You'll start to hear terminologies like looping agents. But let's just put that into place, especially when it comes to the MCP. So remember the 3 MCPs we set up. We're just going to let's execute on 2 of those MCPs now, right? So one, I'm going to say, and here's a tool that I mentioned to you guys earlier. Whisperflow is just a bonus. You just want to be able to talk to Claude and get it done. You can use the conversation dictating tool here where you can just record it, right? Which is the voice. You use voice mode. Or we can use something like Whisperflow. We use Whisperflow. It's just easier, right? All right. I need you to write me a draft email to a new listing client. I'll provide you the email address once I see what the draft is. Make it friendly, make it engaging. Let her know I'm looking forward to our meeting this Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern. I'll be bringing my daughter. She is 3 years old. Hopefully that's not a problem. And schedule this in my calendar for our follow-up meeting for Wednesday at 3 p.m. with Claire. Claire is the client's name. Claire Moore is the client's name. Please put that inside of the email, talking to her specifically by first name. And in my calendar, schedule that for, I said Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern. Follow-up session to call Claire and incorporate Claire inside that email as well. All right, so just give it a robust play on tools. And what we're going to do is execute on that. And it should pull up 2 tools. It should pull up the calendar and it should pull up our Gmail. It might ask to reconnect it if it's not connected. But remember, this is just one of the ways you can use the chat side. And I'm going to show you something else unique that you can use when you're using CoWork, that if it does ask me for permission in CoWork, I don't have to do that. I can just let CoWork go. Right. So we'll let this cook for a little bit. And it's verifying the client's file. It might ask you for Claire's email. So let's just see how it's asking me. See what it did right there. So it's asking for permission. Right. So Let's give Claire, CL. How you spell Claire? Clara Moore. There we go. Gmail. There we go. Okay, it's email. I think I like that. Yes. Here's Clara Moore's email. Put that in my draft. Gmail draft. Just be boom. A Gmail draft. And it let me review the email, so I'm cool with that. I'm not opposed to see how detailed it was. I'm looking forward to our meeting. One quick note, my 3-year-old daughter, I put that there, did the follow. I've also set up a following email for Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Perfect. I'm going to put that inside there. Let's go. And what is it asking me? Do you mean something like, yes? No, just that's her email to add it as a draft in my Gmail account. I guess it was asking me to, I see, right now we're pulling it up. Got it. Setting up the draft, and should be setting up the calendar. So I'll confirm if the calendar appointment is set. Remember I said one of the things that you guys want to get familiar with is if you have to copy and paste stuff, you're doing it wrong. This is a very simple process right here. We'll get into something a little more detail if we have time. Is the calendar appointment set up? And you want to get used to just talking. Yes, calendar appointment set up. So let's go check and see if the email is there and the calendar appointment is there. All right. So we have the draft, which is here. We're good on a draft. And let's check and see if the calendar appointment is scheduled as well. And there is our calendar appointment. That's how you guys need to be able to be more proficient when you guys are using it. So you can communicate back and forth, even down to the CRM, right? So we'll test drive that next. All right. So before we jump into like artifacts and projects, let's jump over and let me show you when you are using your CRM. And remember, I showed you guys earlier why Zapier is so important. So let's just, we're going to have 2 CRMs connected. And we're going to pull from Follow Up Boss. And I want to show you something that's really interesting when you guys are using CoWork, because CoWork gives you a few features here where if I wanted to, this is where it'll manually approve what it's doing. It'll automatically approve it. And then I could just let it go, right? We normally keep CoWork at just skip and approve. This way I can just set it and forget it. And some of the things that you guys want to be aware of, let's say we're using our CRM and we're preparing for our day, right? So preparing for our day, I need you to pull the last active leads from the last 30 days. Well, let's do inactive. Pull the last inactive leads from the last 30 days from Follow Up Boss. Use the Zapier MCP to get the information. I need you to put that to a small list, but put it here first in natural language so I can review it. And then we're going to move it over to a Google Drive where we can create a Google Sheet to review it so we can give it to a calling agent. So show me the list first and then prepare to send this over to a Google Doc. Let's change from prepare. Let's just send it. All right. That's the whole point of doing this. And send it over to a Google Doc. Boom. Let's send that out. And remember, we're using CoWork. See how we have it set as skip. So it should go through the entire process outside of maybe small parameters that it may not have the approval for. It'll check really quickly if it needs to. But for the most part, this is where we can set it. And now we can move on. See how it's going straight to Follow Up Boss. It's pulling up the leads. It's going to, you can see over here, it's activating Zapier because Zapier is where the CRM is. All your CRMs are going to be inside of Zapier, you guys. So if you guys are trying to figure out where to connect our CRMs, it's going to be in Zapier. And when you guys are using your MLS or anything that's password protected, That's where the extension comes in, but you do not have to go to the site. You just need to make sure the site you're logged into the site that's password protected, and then either give it the URL when you're asking Claude to do the task, or point it in the right direction. Giving the URL is easier than pointing it sometimes. But if you tell it, it'll do the search. And if it runs into any problems, it'll let you know. But for the most part, as long as you've given it access to as long as you're logged into that site, you should be good. This may take a little bit, so I may have to chop this up a little bit so you guys can see the end process, but you can see it's pulling the inactive leads. I don't know how many leads are in it that's inactive, so it might be a lot. Who knows, right? All right, now that we have our list, I think this is a really good teachable moment. So you'll see here, it's asking me, do I want to put it as a Google Sheet or a Google Doc? Now, some of you guys are like, why would it say that? It's because I set that by mistake. I said Google Sheets here, you can see here. And then I close with Google Docs, right? Now, if I wanted it in both, I could. Some of you saying like, well, why would I put it into Google Sheets? This becomes super powerful when you guys are creating like voice agents or any type of prospecting agents. Sometimes you have to pull the list independently from your CRM so the agent can make the calls. So this is why we're kind of in the habit of pulling lists and moving them around. I have another video that's going to teach you guys how to create prospecting agents for, listing prospecting and reactivating your listing or your leads, or older leads that you haven't gotten in contact with. But you'll see here, remember, it's always at a place of asking. Like some things require some approval. It can't just activate and work on this, but I can do both. But let's go to the spreadsheet, because that's all I need right now, right? And I don't need to go and, make a Google Doc. I don't see the point of it. Maybe if this was something that would be like a AEO blog or something like that, different. But for a list, always a spreadsheet. I'm not going to burn through the usage just because, that. But that was a good learning lesson to show you guys. It understands, right? I asked for a Google Doc and asked for a Google Sheet. Asked me which one do I prefer to use, right? You can see here is formatting it. And you'll see when you guys are like actually using your CRM, just depending on how like in depth you want to get with using your CRM, from following up with your leads, creating different campaigns, pulling certain leads, customizing emails, like a lot of things we do when it comes to pulling from our CRM. Sometimes we create these lists and then we create a custom emails for each client we're dealing with. So think about that. So you can see here, the doc is created and it's ready to go. So we have that spreadsheet ready. So let's go and check and see the spreadsheet. So all of this should be moved inside that Google Docs. Remember, creating giving it access to the Google Drive is super beneficial when you guys are using the web version. So when you guys have to give it access to folders and files that's not on your computer and you are on the go, it doesn't just limit you to just being on your desktop or your laptop, because we have the web version of CoWork, Code, and always chat has always been there on a web version. So let's go take a look at the spreadsheet real quick. And there we go. Well, here's our spreadsheet. Here's that list. Here's inactive follow-up boss leads from the last 30 days. And that's pretty much how you want to start connecting the dots. And this list can be used for whatever we choose to from moving forward. So let me show you something, artifacts of why when you're like really on top of your game. And remember I talked about like private dashboards. Let's jump into artifacts real quick, and then we'll bounce from artifacts into projects. Now, this is a perfect place to start playing with some of the features. I'm going to come back to projects. Projects are looping agents. That'll be easier for me to explain for you guys. Remember, this is going to be very detailed in reference to training. I want to give you guys a definitive guide to really using Claude. So when I see connections between features, techniques, and tools, that's kind of what I'm connecting right now. There are timestamps here as well, so you can jump around. But I want to go straight to artifacts because I think this is a good follow-up when you guys are using your CRM. So inside of artifacts, you just have two ways you can create artifacts. You can create one through the chat, right? And one through CoWork. We're going to do it through CoWork because you'll see how it preps you when you're using it and helps you format what type of artifact you're going to be creating. So you've seen people make those dashboards where they just prompt it But this is a lot more cleaner where it works based off the CRM skills and then exactly what I need. So let's just go and just build it out, and you'll see how it starts to prepare us, where it immediately starts to prime the CoWork of what I need, right? You'll see it'll go through the process of understanding what it needs to pull, how it needs to format it, start asking me just some, it'll ask me just some general questions as well, just to make sure it's on the same page of what we're building. So it's going to pull some of the the MCPs to see what we have connected, what we need to connect, anything that I might want to pull inside this artifact. This artifact is a living document, you guys, right? It is, best way to understand it, it is a dashboard, but it is a living document, you guys. So I already have pretty much the CRMs I need here. So just going through some of these other ones I might want to connect. Everything here, I think I'm fine with right now. So let's go and just check in and make sure we have the proper CRMs we need. It's even asked me if I'm missing any CRMs as we start to build this out, right? So anything I might be missing, let's make sure, and let's go here and let's go and let's create marketing performance, content, social ops, CRM, sales pipeline. Let's do that, right? This is just for me because I want to see what's going on. I want to refresh it based off requests, or I can have it to refresh itself daily. So every morning it falls kind of into the scheduling. Every morning it will be like a fresh article for me. I'd rather refresh it myself. That way I can check it whenever I want to. I'm not stuck to waiting till the next day to see, or a certain time, right? So once that's set up, then it should give me some prompting where we can kind of start to format like exactly what I need. Now, it already pulled some of the CRMs that we're using. Like this is natively inside of Claude, where we already have HubSpot connected, which is another CRM we use. I'll come back and make the adjustments on where it needs to pull that data, but I'm just showing you really quickly of when you have it formatted, how you can go back and make those adjustments. Now, I could stop this, right? And stop it and say, use Follow-Up Boss as my CRM to pull all the inactive leads from the last 30 days. I also want to track my emails. So any new emails that come in, I want that to be on this artifact. I also need to see what my calendar looks like in the last 30 days. So I can stay on top of what's current and what's coming up. Always show me what's happening in the following week inside this artifact as well. Let's start there, right? Because I need to make some adjustments. It already started building, but we need to make some adjustments and correct. And it might ask where to find followable. So I might have to point it to Zapier, but that's okay. I don't mind. Like sometimes we got to give it the real direction so we can kind of see. I found the tool, searching connectors, and you kind of see now it's reformed. Oh, see? Okay. So it knows to go to Zapier. See that there? So it knows to go to Zapier. We're not going to worry about Follow-Up Boss. Worry about HubSpot. If I was doing this, that's something I really needed to pay attention to. Like I pretty much should have both of these in there. We're doing two different things where Follow-Up Boss is for real estate transaction. Zapier is for the agency and client work we're doing with Nudge. So it's kind of why I have two CRMs. Well, let's let this build out and we'll come back once this is like formatted. So we ain't got to just sit and watch this build, right? All right. So I paused it really quickly because you didn't have to watch all that be built. But now we have our artifact, kind of see what we actually do. Last 30 days, the calendar, artifact is live. It's set to be a refreshing document. Take a look at it, right? So we have what's, from the lead active leads, client emails, meetings, all other good stuff. You can kind of see from a glance, we have it here, lead flow, everything we needed inside of this particular artifact. Now, remember I talked to you guys about the skills and how skills become very important, right? So now I really don't like the design of all this, and let's just go and give it a better design format. So remember we created, or I talked to you guys about creating your guidelines or brand guidelines. If I didn't talk to you, now I am. Creating your brand guidelines, and see where I'm going here. You guys can get to everything here inside this plus sign. So this plus sign is pretty much your control center. So remember, if you have custom skills, and let's say if you have different brand guidelines you want to use or something that you think would be aesthetically pleasing that you've created, remember, we create multiple brand guidelines. Let's see. That one is a little bit lighter. Let's do one that has a more, let's see what else we have. Let's pull one because I don't like how this looks. And you don't have to be this, anal about like, design. I am. All right, let's use this one, brand guidelines. This is okay. Let's use this one, right? And redesign my artifact using this skill brand guidelines. And now I'm going to execute on that. And remember that right here, what you see here is considered a command code. The command code is how you actually activate any skill that you have created. Remember, this skill has all of my rules, parameters, and anything that you're doing. Every skill has that, right? So it's like it has the prompt, it has the workflow, it even has connectors that you would want to use, right? Skin it, keep it useful, poster cover, and let's go. Let's just so we can get something moving really quickly. Little depths, little details, right? But we're working now, right? And all I'm trying to do is if I'm going to use this day to day, at least I can make it, aesthetically pleasing of something that I might like. And that's how you guys want to think about it. You don't have to just settle for just any old thing. Like, I think this is ugly. We all see this. This is very ugly, right? We can make it a little bit better, or it can fit aesthetically of what we actually do in our business or use in our business. It's working with us, you guys, right? So I'm going to pause it here and I'll come back when this is complete. All right, now that the new design is added, you can see it's a little more pleasing now, right? So let's go and just open it up. You can see how it redesigned it based off of the brand guidelines that was provided inside. For me, this is a lot cleaner. I think you can see it's a lot better than the very first version, right? You can see just at a glance, everything we need. It even talks about the connectors down here, right? You can see everything we need that we asked it to build. And now you have a living document on your Claude. You can also get to this dashboard whenever you need it. So just don't trip out. Like, even if you have it set where you want it to download and you want it to reopen it natively inside of like your desktop, this is going to work off your desktop. You can refresh it from there, or you can just come back to artifacts and it should be right here where you could see that particular document. See up here where it says reload, do the reload. If you want to separate it independently, you can pop it out. And of course, you have the ability to download this as a quick PDF. If you're creating multiple artifacts, just pen this one so you can get to it really quickly, just so you can send out a quick report. But you kind of see what's going on now. And it's informing you that all the information right now is current, right? So this is more, it kind of counts down. So if I check this maybe like an hour from now, it will let me know like this is whatever old. But this is how you guys go and create your dashboards and using artifacts. You can create whatever type of artifact you need. But I see a lot of people making these dashboards and they're going through the whole process of like prompting, and you don't have to do all that. Like I said, some stuff is just overkill because they don't understand how to use the features and tools. You do. And that's how you guys can go and create your complete dashboard, your hub, anything you want to stay on top of from a glance, you can do from here. We can even create where we can send out stuff as well. This is just a quick build, but I wanted to show you when you see people talk about your dashboard or your daily huddles, even down if I wanted to schedule, we can do that more. And now let me show you guys how to start using projects, right? So I thought this was a good overlap of what we just did. All right, so let's talk about projects. Projects are considered to be looping agents. The beautiful thing about with Claude being combined with chat and CoWork, whereas back when we have everything in one space, is when we're dealing with projects, the only thing I'll caution you guys when you guys are creating a project is once you name it and you give it some type of description of what it should be doing. If you give it a folder, remember everything that's on that folder is only going to be native to, or you're only going to have access to that information when you're on that laptop or computer where that folder is. So think about that when you guys are using it. And when you guys are using projects, let's just jump into a project and you'll see you still have that same play where it splits the two from chat in CoWork. The only difference between chat and CoWork is, remember, chat is just execution. CoWork, we can actually assign it to do things. So you can assign it to a folder, and we can also assign this looping agent when it's in CoWork to execute on things without you giving it approval. So if there's an MCP that needs to pull or needs to use, it can just go, or you can set it as manual, right? Now, inside of CoWork, inside of each project, you give it instructions. This is the prompt that you would normally use. So if you have a prompt that you use and you think you're going to use it again, create a project. Remember, they're looping agents. The instructions is where you put the projects. Memory is built where it records what this project should be doing. And you also have the ability to give it more context of information that you want it to have, right? Anytime you see here, this is where you give it context, and you can pull any type of file from your repo when you guys set up your GitHub. I'll show you guys that when we get on code, and from your Google Drive, right? You definitely have the information to pull from there. This is all more of an automation side, but predominantly you're going to pull it from your Google Drive. You can also schedule out tasks to get done inside of projects now. So that's a new thing that you guys can do. It depends on what it is. This isn't something I would need to schedule because it's a content, pretty much made to create content for the month of July. You can kind of see we had it set and it pulled some information, and, I kind of play back and forth with it. But the goal of a project is to create a looping agent. The only thing I will remind you is when you guys are creating your projects, if you use a folder that's on your laptop, when you get on your desktop, you will not have access to that folder. So keep that in mind. And anytime you think you want to create something that's going to be repeated, like a looping agent, which is a looping agent, that's what a project is for. You can also give it skills to pull from. I'll do that in a later video to show you a more advanced technique of using projects and skills. But right now, just understand the only difference in your projects is if you give it a folder or not. And when you're executing on your project, what tool you're going to use, right? CoWork helps you automate stuff where you can just let it go and schedule, right? And then chat, this is just going to answer and execute based off the instructions. Now, while we're talking about projects, let's go into scheduling, because you did see how you can schedule in your projects. Now, there are two ways you can schedule things inside of Claude. You can create it through Claude by actually telling it, and then you can manually set it. Manually setting it is what you see inside projects, and you can take certain things that you already are building, like a project, and just go and manually set it. I stopped these two so I can show you just really quickly. Now, when you guys get to the projects area, it's always safe to have the keep awake in place. So now it can work on your behalf. And let's just use this one for the sake of argument. So we're going to rerun this. And this is something that we run weekly, where it checks to give a pretty much audit on what's happening on Instagram on our page. Now, there is a few MCPs that we have connected to make this possible, like Firecrawl, like Algro, and a few others to make sure we can pull the right information. But this here is built to give me pretty much a diagnostic on how I'm doing socially on Instagram specifically, right? And this runs once a week, every Friday, and we send this out to our content guy. He takes a look at it, and I look at it as well, and we make some adjustments, and then we prepare for the week going from there. So this is why on Instagram, like I said, this helps you guys be a little more consistent when you guys are creating. If you guys really want like analytics and details, that's kind of what we're happening here. But my point of showing you this is scheduled to run every week, right? And you guys can create scheduled tasks as you see fit. You can stop them whenever you want to, right? So unless you want something that you need all the time, like your morning briefs, I find that people have these morning briefs and it becomes more like a thing, like white noise when it comes every day. Having a morning brief come out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you decide you want it on Tuesday, run it, or just manually running the brief when you need it is a little bit more proficient and a little more proactive than just having it run by yourself. I'm learning people who aren't checking these things day to day, but here's a few ideas that you guys can play around with. But anything you want to schedule, that's how you guys go through scheduling your tasks. It's not complicated at all, you guys. It's not don't overthink this. All right, now let's get into dispatch. But let me show you this real quick because let's see if it's done. Because I'll come back and do another video on how you guys go and create these reports for your different socials. Here we go. Okay, it's pretty chill. All right, so here's a report, and it's kind of telling me how my performance is and what I need to fix and repair. And there is a technique of doing this correctly, so you don't just plug your Instagram account in. There are a few components there, but just showing you, like, if I wanted to have this schedule, this report come to me every day, which is unnecessary. I ain't putting out content that heavy. We do have it come every week. You can kind of see how that goes. But let's get to dispatch, because dispatch is easy. Dispatch is fun. Let me point out two things with dispatch. One, this is how you're able to create a remote control to CoWork. Now, they have added a component inside of CoWork, inside of mobile, that you can use CoWork as well. So just so you don't get confused, when you talk about dispatch, dispatch is the agent that's attached to CoWork. CoWork would be you independently using CoWork. So it's a little bit different. So with the agent, you can just give it the information and it'll figure out what it needs to do from that point on. When you're using CoWork, you're kind of manually telling it piece by piece of what needs to get done. And here's a few things you want to make sure that's set on CoWork, where you want to make sure your computer stays awake. Right? You want to make sure the mobile notifications are there. That way it'll kind of pretty much text you and let you know when things are getting done, when it needs your, you to step in. Allow browser access. This goes back to why you don't need to go independently to the Claude extension, because it can do that. Of course, here we already have the computer use set up, and then we have code permission where it's accepting. So we can get a little bit deeper, where if we wanted to have it where it's at auto, we can let it just go. Now, what that means is if there's anything that has any coding that has to get done, you need to understand CoWork and code will work in tandem with each other. Like, they will overlap from time to time. Even when you guys are building like websites, HTML, that's code, right? So giving it permission to do that, that's how that works. You want to set a independent file. By default, it's going to create an output folder that's going to be inside of your desktop. You can assign a folder if you want to, right? But by default, this is what you're going to have when you are. So by default, you'll have an independent folder where it'll put in the output. Now, here's what I want you to understand. You can only have dispatch connected to one network at a time. So whatever you're going to be using more often, more frequent, that's the only network that can have CoWork. Dispatch will talk to you. It will communicate with you. It is the agent that is connected to Claude as a whole from CoWork, and it overlaps into code. So you can talk to it. It's really cool. But remember, one dispatch at a time. Dispatch is exactly what it says it is. It is an agent that dispatch the assignments or the tasks that needs to get done. Remember, chat is for chatting. CoWork is for tasks, and code is for sessions. Code goes a lot longer than tasks. So just keep that in mind. And that's dispatch, you guys. Pretty cool, right? All right, now let's talk about customize, since it's right under dispatch. Customize is a fast way to get to your settings. Nothing over the top. We've already covered our settings, but if you want to get to just some of the adjustments to what you're doing in Claude really quickly, this is where customize exists. This used to only be available on the desktop version, but now you can access on the web version. It is so amazing how Claude Anthropic has merged the web version and the desktop version. The only thing I'm waiting for is to make it where they allow Claude to have access to our files. The only thing that's missing, that's missing from Claude, but you can see everything we went through from our settings area is where you'll see a customized area. You can get to this in two places. You get it to it from here, or you can just go right to customize and get to all of this stuff here, right? From your skills, your connectors, your plugins, all of your general settings, your usage, everything that you guys are doing from your CoWork, your capabilities, it's all right here, right? So a lot of what we see in our settings, that's what the customized area is. And like I said, it used to be on the desktop version only, but you can access it from your desktop as well. I mean, from the web version as well, which, like I said, the merge, the only thing that we can't do is pull those folders over, which makes sense. I get it, right? So that's where the customized feature is for. All right, now let's get into the models. We'll start off with Claude, Chat, and CoWork. There was a time where this conversation would be separate because Chat was universally available everywhere, web version and the desktop version, and CoWork is only available on the desktop version. That's not anymore, right? So we're on a new version of what Claude is. CoWork and Chat work together now. There are two versions of Claude that I think some people get confused with, and I don't want you to get confused. There is a web version and there's a desktop version. The web version, you can access everything you do on the desktop. The desktop version can gain access to independent folders on your computer. So if you have folders on your computer that you want to give it access to, it can use those. Wherever your contracts and leases are, you can give it access to those folders. The workaround to using those same documents inside the web version is you would need to give it a Google Drive and create a Google folder inside that Google Drive and give it access. So anything that's web-based, the web version can access. Anything that's the desktop version can access anything that's web-based and desktop, which is native to your computer. So keep that in mind. So when you're using a desktop when you're using Claude's desktop version on your laptop, your end project, whatever you've done, you can get it from your laptop or your desktop or other computers. But those folders are only going to be, they only have access to those folders from that computer. So it works natively to the computer you're using, but the end project can be visible throughout any other network that you have access to inside of Claude. So just keep that in mind. So the only workaround when you want to give Claude access to folders or files that you're using on your desktop is to put it in Google Drive, create a Google folder, and then give it access and then tell it where it's at. And that's just the workaround. So you're not limited by using a desktop. And there was a time that we didn't have CoWork on the web version. It was only on the desktop version. Now we have CoWork on the web version and on the mobile version as well. So the only workaround that you need to keep in mind is if you're giving it access to folders, right? You need to make those folders, you need to put those folders in the cloud so it can access them from something like a Google Drive. So that's the only workaround, and I'll point that out. There are two versions. All right, now let's get into code. So I'm going to do a completely separate video deep diving into code because I'm going to need a little bit more time to help you guys understand how to set it up and how some of the features are. But right now, I'm just going to give you a quick overview when you're using code. Remember, when you're using code is based off of sessions. And here you have the ability to see just the different models, your usage and all the good stuff. But you can use whatever model that code has access to. The unique thing about code, it works off what's considered to be a CLI format. It's different than an MCP. So this is why I'm going to take a little bit more time to show you how to set up code. But I'm going to point out just some overview of how when you're using code and when you get to that point, separate video I'm going to do on code, teach you guys how to set all this up because you have to have the GitHub, which is a repo, which is a repository system. It's like a digital, like a coding filing system where you put everything. You understand how to create repos, how to build hooks to other repos, and then how to use it and how to set it up inside of code. It's different than using CoWork. So this is why I'm not going to jam all that here. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. So when you have code, you can do things like set it to go manual. You can have it bypass permissions. This is where you're able to pull different files that you're going to use inside of code. So same process. You're able to pull locally from what you're using. Again, these are different repos that I can pull where if I have a folder set up. Again, same process of CoWork. The only difference is you don't set it up like an MCP. The MCPs are set up. You have a CLI. I'll explain what that is later. And code is session. So once you have your code properly set up, you'll get different commands. So here, code works off of commands. So let's just use let's say, I have one for listing. So this one this will help us create, property listing videos from, Zillow links. So this is going to take a Zillow link, run it through the MCP and the CLI setup that's inside of Hicksfield, and create me a full video from this image right here. So it's already preset. Remember, code is already programmed to do what it's assigned to do. Code is similar to skills. It is a skill, but it's a little more detailed, right? Because you give it actions as well. I don't have to go and explain anything to code right now. All I need to do is give it the command and give it, ask me a few questions. We'll go here, cinema style, right? Little basic stuff. This is stuff that's already inside code to already ask. And I only want to animate 6 out of 10. I wanted a 16:9, right? Because I wanted a cinema style. And now it's going to go to work. That's it, right? The beautiful thing about code is, like I said, it works off sessions. Let's go. It works off of sessions based off of the command code. This here is the command code. The command codes are connected to repos. This is why I said I got to take a little bit more time to help you guys understand code. But let's just go through and get an action going. And then we'll do a completely separate video of teaching you agents how to set up Claude Code, because that is going to be your superpower. And that is something a lot of real estate professionals avoid because it seems complicated, but you don't have to anymore because we don't work in terminals anymore. And we can access code from our web browser as well. So it's a lot of things we can do. There is a web browser that's set up. We have its own network where we can access it from the web as well, right? We can access code from our phone as well. There's a lot that we can do with code. So it's I'm gonna do a separate video and show you guys how code works, but I'll pause here and I'll come back for the end result of what this looks like. So remember, this is programmed to give it a command code, take a Zillow link and turn it into a cinema-based video. Remember, code is based off sessions, and that is the beauty of code. Chat, you chat. CoWork is task, right? That's when you can schedule stuff. And code is sessions. Like I can leave and go do other stuff and it'll keep working on this until it's done. So I think you guys get the gist of what it's doing here. So it's piecing everything together, but you can see this is just from a Zillow link. This isn't anything, right? And these are just images. And you can see how it's taking and tying this into clips that it's going to eventually pull and put all together into one full project. Now, while it's still building, one thing I forgot to point out to you is, like I said, you have access to all of the models right here as well. So right here on the right hand side, you still have access to the models, and you have access to the legacy models as well. So don't think I forgot about that part. I forgot to point it out, but I did. And you have the effort control as well. So keep in mind when you guys are using some of these models, like normally if I using the design of Claude is Fable, but for the sake of the training today, I didn't use it at all. And it saves me some usage as well, right? But when you guys are designing, Fable is best. If you guys want this repo, I have all this inside the Agent Lab where that's where this stuff is given. All of the skills and techniques, and I'll put more information about the Agent Lab if you guys want to take this a lot further. Let's take a look at the finished project, right? But this is from a Zillow link, right? Now, all we need to do is add some background music, add the voiceover. I can use 11 Labs to do the voiceover if I wanted to, like we turn it to a full project. There are other components that we have added to make these, really, really work. But just for the sake of training really quickly, just give you a quick, like a bird's eye view of what you can do when you understand how code actually works and the access that code gives you to actually build out full sessions and design whatever you want. Remember, code is best for like designing. Wait till I show you guys how to do like really, really like powerful websites and landing pages and a lot of other things we're going to get into. But I'm going to take my time teaching you guys how to use code, and we'll revisit this example again as well, you guys. Now, I know that was a lot, and like I said, we have a separate video that's going to teach you Claude Code, and I'm going to have a separate video that we're going to deep dive into called Design you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and this gives me a good feedback loop so I can determine what other videos you need to understand. Claude is going to be the strongest tool in your arsenal right now if you actually understand how to use it, right? I know the hype is about Claude CoWork, and CoWork is important, but you can see chat and CoWork has intertwined and it's available on the web. So the beauty of what CoWork was, it's still there, but it's just a lot easier to access it now. So Code is what you guys need to understand and learn how to use. And if you want to learn how to use Code, check this video out right here.